Okay, I was just thinking about how everything started. I was 10 years old when I got a phone call. It was 1980, and I know it was 1980 because we lived in Yuma for 3 years, and we took turns. I have two brothers and a sister. We took turns coming to stay with my grandmother in San Diego. My older brother came the first year, and then he came back to Yuma, and then I came the second year. And then when my year was about up, my mom ended up moving back to San Diego, and she got a little apartment inside in Lemon Grove. And I get a phone call when I'm 10. I'm home alone eating a bowl of cereal. It's funny, I'm eating cereal when all this stuff keeps happening. And I'm going to change my brand. And I get a phone call. Oh, the phone's ringing. It's not really, but I guess it was for me. I answer it. I'm 10 years old. And I answer it. And a man says, Tony? I'm like, yeah? And he's like, I'm watching you right now. And I was like, oh my God. You're 10 years old. That's creepy. A man telling you he's watching you. And then he says, I'm going to be watching you the rest of your life. Or all your life. Just something like that. And then he hung up. And my mom came home, I told her, and she goes, first she was worried, and then she goes, it's probably just somebody messing with you, one of her friends, or her boyfriend's son, or because he was a clown, a clown. And she just didn't take it serious enough. She just kind of like, you're no one, you're no, she knew we were poor, I was no one important. And I just kind of thought, she has to be right. Why would, nothing happened. And I just kind of totally forgot about it until all the gang stalking stuff increased. But what happened is nothing really happened until I was about, that I can see. Stuff was probably already happening, but I didn't see it. Until I was 15, I was eating a bowl of cereal again. It was like 1 in the morning. And I could feel someone staring at me. How you could, and I was watching Tales from the Dark Side. And I remember I looked to the left, and the curtain was split open. There was a crack, like that wide though. And there was a man sitting on the brick fence. He had to be inside the yard, deep in the yard, because the side even had its own little side area that was locked off. And he's sitting on that locked off area, staring at me. It was a white man, and I thought that's strange because I lived in an all black neighborhood, and then the second from the blacks were the Mexicans, and I'm half Spaniard. Well, I'm Spaniard and Mexican, Gypsy and German, but I was being raised with my mom and my grandpa, which was the Hispanic side. And half Mexican, half Spaniard. My mom, grandfather was from San Antonio, big belt buckle, big cowboy hat, hardcore, get that shovel and clean before I slap the hell out of you, and I just remember this white guy staring at me. And I just thought it was so creepy. So I went to tell my mom, and I used to tell so many practical jokes. I was the boy who cried wolf, and she's reading a book, and she goes, Tony, there is not, leave me alone, I'm reading. And that it served me right for playing so many games, and I didn't have time to convince her. I just grabbed a knife, snuck around the back to shank him. I was gonna shank him, and he was gone. And I thought, oh man. And that's the first sign. And then when I was 17 years old, across the street, I got my girlfriend pregnant. She had a kid. My son had a kid. Had my baby, my son. And we moved across the street, and we were renting a room. And then there was someone trying to come in the window there. They were moving all this stuff away from the window all night long. This guy had a shelf against the window with all kinds of stuff on it. And we went out there the next morning, everything was moved away from the shelf. Shelf was moved away from the window. It took them all night to dismantle it. Then we moved it down the street into a duplex. My grandfather's house was still right there on the same street. We were on the same road as the other house too. And then one night she calls me, my girlfriend, into the room, and there's this huge shadow of a man in the window. And we just stood there all night staring at him with knives in our hands, waiting for him to hop through that window and shank him. And we went because we had no peek hole and no phone and no front window, so we couldn't. That was the only way in or out was the front door. There was no windows, no peek hole, so we were kind of trapped in. So we went around the next morning as the sun started coming up, and we looked, and the screws were removed from the window. Then the house on the hill, people were standing in the window months later, naked, standing in the window staring down at our duplex. And I invited my sister lived next door and her husband and their kids, and I invited my sister and her husband over, and me and my girlfriend, my sister and husband, we flashed the lights, and they were flashing the lights. It was so creepy. But after that, we woke up and we stayed alert. Now, my brother-in-law doesn't remember that too much. I'm just thinking, like, what's wrong with your brain? My sister remembers it, but he don't. Well, since then, if you watch my other videos, you see what happened last year. A year and a half ago, everything unfolded. I didn't know this entire time I was a victim of gang stalking. I thought it was ghosts. Things were moving around in my apartment. I just contributed to ghosts because I've seen shadow men on the wall. I've seen stuff. That could be just technology. where they're able to be inside their house through like a different kind of portal. That could be technology. We don't know, but we do know that there probably are evil demonic. Well, there are demonic spirits, but they might show themselves. Is what I'm saying. They possibly were showing themselves. This whole thing is demonic, so you have to get with God. I was raised Catholic. I was close to Jesus, but I had a problem with the other stuff, praying to Mary, or the statues. I always knew that was wrong, but God Himself is great. Then I got upset because kids were starving, and I listened to Prince, and he was talking about how kids were dying in Africa from starvation, and God doesn't care enough, and I bought into that stuff, and it was called the Purple Light, which is interesting because this is kind of how it recircled. And I'll tell you about that in the future, but the Purple Light, I traded the Purple Light in and got a different Purple Light, but which is Jesus Christ, the King of Kings. See, purple, royalty, light, wisdom. Anyways, so a year and a half ago, it all broke out. Basically, the doctor, I uploaded a video of my ex-girlfriend being a reptilian hybrid. She has some anomaly on her face. The doctor at Mercy Hospital tried to poison my IV, got me sick. I left, I got better. Okay, maybe I'm being paranoid. A guy at a red light tries to open my car door. He pulls up, tries to open my car door. He's trying to get in. Okay, maybe I'm being paranoid. Then I call 911 3 times in a row. They hang up on me. Then the neighbors next door to me, there was some strange material in my apartment. When I made a video saying it's coming from those condos, 6 huge guys ran out to the platforms. 6 huge guys in suits. I've never seen guys in suits there. Suddenly there's 6 huge guys in suits in the condos. I've never seen guys in suits there. 6 huge guys. I'm talking like feds. Huge guys in suits ran out to the platform, sweating bricks. They were standing in a circle, and I'm filming this weird material. I'm filming them, and they're freaking out because now I'm aware of the material. I'm accusing them. I'm making a video and I'm uploading it. And now they ran into the video. So now they're thinking, now we're in the video on top of it. And I'm uploading it. So I think they were running out to come get me. But they stopped when they saw I was filming them. And then they just froze my channel. This has been a nightmare. One thing after another after another. Then 2 military guys that were hanging out in the condos, 2 huge guys, try to sneak in my back window on April 18, 2017. Try to sneak in my back window. And to prove the cops were in on it, they came out, didn't want to shine their flashlight. I had to call them 3 times. They came out the second time, on the third call, and they blamed me. And they wouldn't shine their flashlights behind my studio. Finally, when they shined it, they wouldn't let me see what was back there. When they left at 3:30 a.m., at 4:15 a.m., somebody ran from the area they shined their flashlight, ran out of the backyard, down the driveway, and into the streets. That proves the San Diego Police Department was in on it. They were going to have me murdered. This is how creepy this stuff gets. Where do you go when the police are in on it? The hospitals are in on it. You know where you go? You go to the churches. You go to churches, and no one's perfect. There's shills there too. Things have changed a lot in 25 years since I used to go to church every day. But there's good people there, and there's good Christians there too. You're going to get a lot of good Christians. And when I go to church and I see black people there, and I'm going to be honest, when I see black people there that are like 50, 60 years old, and you can tell they're poor and they're humble, those are the people I trust a lot. And I trust all races. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that for the most part, those are going to be the people that ain't going to put up with no strange shenanigans. And I've been going church to church to church, and I think 5 churches now, and I got friends in every church that knows what's going on, and we're gonna